You ever notice how microwave popcorn smells exactly the same every single time? Jamie flicked the half-empty bag between his fingers, like it held the secrets of the universe. Same chemical butter stench, same vaguely threatening rustle when you shake it. Like it's judging you for not having real food. Eli leaned against the dorm room doorway, backpack straps digging into his shoulders. That's what you're thinking about it. He glanced at his watch, then frowned. Wait, my watch stopped. The hands were frozen at 3:17, though sunlight still streamed through the window. The popcorn bag hit the floor with a soft crinkle as Jamie's fingers went slack. Your watch stopped? He didn't move toward it, didn't ask to see, just stared at Eli's wrist with the intensity of someone spotting a spider crawling up their sleeve. Mine too. Eli twisted his wrist, tapping the glass face. The second hand remained stubbornly still. Battery must have, both of us? At the same exact minute? Jamie kicked the popcorn aside and lunged for his phone on the desk. The screen lit up with a glowing 3:17. No blinking colon between the numbers. No refreshing feed notifications. Just that same frozen moment, digitized. Outside, a bird mid-flight hung suspended against the cloudless sky, wings outstretched in perfect stillness, not hovering, frozen. Eli's breath came too fast suddenly. Okay, that's impossible, Jamie finished, already halfway out the door. Come on. The hallway stretched unnaturally silent, their sneakers making no sound against the linoleum despite their frantic pace. Eli grabbed Jamie's elbow as they passed the common room. Through the glass panel, students sat motionless around tables, mouths open mid-laughter, coffee cups tilted at impossible angles without spilling. One girl's ponytail arced behind her like a frozen whip. Don't touch anything, Jamie hissed, though his own fingers twitched toward a suspended hummingbird outside the window. Its wings were razor-thin sheets of light. What if we get stuck like them? They burst into the stairwell and nearly collided with Professor Calloway, standing perfectly still on the landing. One polished loafer lifted mid-step. Eli's stomach lurched. The man's glasses had slid down his nose but halted before they could fall. Jamie exhaled sharply through his teeth. Okay, new theory. We're dead. This is the afterlife. And God has a real fucked up sense of humor. Keep moving, Eli said, though his legs felt hollow. 3 flights down, the emergency exit doors hung open, revealing the quad beyond. Trees stood like sculptures, leaves caught mid-tremble. A frisbee hovered 6 inches above some frozen kid's outstretched hand. The only movement came from their own trembling breaths fogging the air, which made no sense, Eli realized. If time stopped, shouldn't their lungs freeze too? Jamie crouched to inspect a ladybug suspended on a blade of grass. Think we can... He tapped its shell. The insect didn't budge. Huh. Feels like pressing a hologram. He straightened suddenly, eyes widening. Wait, if everything's paused... He took off towards the parking lot at a sprint, dodging petrified joggers with eerie precision. Jamie skidded to a halt beside Professor Calloway's vintage Mustang, its cherry-red paint gleaming under the frozen sunlight. The keys dangled midair from the ignition, caught in the act of turning. Oh, hell yes, he breathed, reaching for the door handle, then hesitated. You think this counts as Grand Theft Auto if time's literally stopped? Eli pressed his palm against the driver's side window. The glass felt oddly warm, like the car was holding its breath. Pretty sure legal systems don't account for temporal anomalies. His voice sounded too loud in the eerie stillness. But what if... Jamie yanked the door open. The hinges didn't squeak. The seat didn't creak under his weight as he slid in. Even the radio, paused mid-static between stations, made no sound when he twisted the knob. Keys won't turn, he muttered, jiggling them. The metal refused to budge, as if welded in place. Like everything else, stuck, a sudden crunch of gravel made them both whirl. Eli expected to see another frozen student. Maybe a campus squirrel paused mid-scurry. Instead, a girl stood blinking at them from 3 parking spots over. her leather jacket creaking audibly as she shifted her weight. Real. Moving. Alive. "You're not stuck," Jamie said stupidly. The girl tilted her head, her dark braids swaying in a way that shouldn't have been possible. "Stuck?" She stepped closer, boots crunching gravel that shouldn't have been able to crunch. "You mean like them?" She jerked her chin toward a frozen jogger mid-stride nearby, sweat droplets hanging like glass beads from his forehead. Eli's pulse thudded in his throat. "You can see it too?" "Obviously." She rolled her eyes, but her fingers twitched toward the pepper spray clipped to her belt. "Been like this since I woke up 20 minutes ago. Thought I was hallucinating until I tried slapping one of the statues." She held up reddened fingers. "Real enough to hurt." Jamie climbed out of the Mustang, leaving the door hanging open. "Okay, so we've got 3 people moving in a frozen world. That's statistically impossible," Eli interrupted. He eyed the girl's jacket. "Normal denim, not some futuristic material. No glowing tattoos or strange devices. Just a college student, same as them. Probably. You don't happen to own a microwave popcorn brand, do you?" The girl, her jacket tag read Rhea in Sharpie, blinked at Eli like he'd asked her to recite the periodic table backward. "Popcorn?" Her nose wrinkled. "Dude, I wish this was a snack-induced hallucination." She kicked a pebble, which skittered audibly across the pavement, while the surrounding gravel remained eerily still. But unless Kroger's started lacing their kernels with LSD, Jamie circled her slowly, examining her like a museum exhibit. "You don't feel any different. No weird tingles, no sudden urges to recite binary code." He mimed typing an invisible keyboard. "No mysterious new scars shaped like flux capacitors." Rhea swatted him away. "Just the existential dread." She nodded toward the frozen jogger. "Tried talking to them at first. Even shook one. Guy nearly toppled over like a fucking mannequin." Her throat worked as she swallowed. "They're warm though. Breathing. Just paused." Eli pressed 2 fingers to the jogger's wrist. A pulse thrummed steadily beneath the skin, out of sync with the unmoving second hand on the guy's wristwatch. "So, it's not just time stopping." He glanced at the sky, where clouds hung motionless as painted set pieces. "Everything's still alive. Just trapped." "Speak for yourselves," said a new voice, gravelly, amused. They spun to see a man lounging against a frozen food truck, twirling a set of car keys around one finger. His leather gloves creaked with the motion. Though honestly, expected more screaming when you kids figured it out. The keys spun once more before the man snapped them into his palm with a sharp click, impossibly loud in the frozen world. Eli instinctively stepped back, his shoulder blades pressing against the Mustang's cold metal. The man looked ordinary, late 30s, stubble shadowing his jaw, a faded NASA shirt peeking beneath his jacket. But his eyes were wrong. Too bright, like they'd absorbed leftover sunlight while everything else dulled. "Who the hell are you?" Jamie demanded, edging closer to Eli. "Temporary neighbor." The man pushed off the food truck and strolled toward them, his boots crunching gravel that shouldn't have been able to crunch. "Call me Hitch, short for Hitchinson, or Hitchhiker. Depends how poetic you're feeling." Rhea crossed her arms. "You know what's happening." Hitch flicked the keys into the air again, catching them without looking. "Know what's happening? Kid, I am what's happening." His grin showed too many teeth. Not sharp, just slightly off, like they'd been borrowed from someone else's mouth. Well, part of it anyway. Jamie made a strangled noise. "Oh, great. We're dealing with the modest kind of cryptic asshole." The man, Hitch, laughed, a sound that bounced strangely in the frozen air. "You want answers? Follow me." He turned and started walking toward the physics building, his footsteps somehow echoing despite the world's eerie silence. Rhea hesitated, then muttered, "Fuck it," and strode after him. Eli exchanged a glance with Jamie, who shrugged with exaggerated nonchalance. Before, they both hurried to catch up. The physics building's doors swung open soundlessly under Hitch's gloved hand. Inside, frozen students dotted the hallways like wax figures, one frozen mid-sip from a water fountain, a perfect arc of droplets suspended between her lips and the spout. "Keep up," Hitch said, vaulting over a motionless janitor's cart with unsettling ease. His boots left no prints in the freshly waxed floor. "Unless you want to stay here playing statue tag forever." Eli's lungs burned as they rounded a corner into a lecture hall. The tiered seats held rows of petrified students, their pens hovering above half-finished notes. At the podium, Professor Nguyen's outstretched pointer finger aimed at a chalkboard covered in equations. All except one corner, where the writing dissolved into frantic, looping scrawl. "Ah, good," Hitch said, plucking the chalk from Nguyen's frozen fingers. It came away with a soft snap. She almost figured it out. Almost. He tossed the chalk over his shoulder. It hung in the air like a tiny comet. Hitch dragged a gloved finger across the chalkboard, smearing equations into illegible clouds. She was close, he mused, tapping the looping scrawl. But close doesn't restart time. The chalk dust hung in the air, refusing to settle. Jamie snatched a frozen pen from a student's desk. It resisted at first, then came free with a sound like tearing Velcro. "So what? We're in some shitty time loop movie now." He flicked the pen at Hitch. It stopped mid-air inches from the man's face. "Better." Hitch plucked the suspended pen between two fingers. "You're the glitch." He tossed it back. This time, it clattered normally against the floorboards. Most people wouldn't have noticed time stopped. Their brains would have filled in the gaps. Clocks, working, birds, flying. But you three? His grin widened. "You saw." Rhea kicked a desk leg. The entire row of frozen students wobbled like bowling pins. "Why us?" Hitch leaned against the chalkboard, his grin fading into something sharper, more calculating. "Why you?" He tapped his temple. "Same reason certain people wake up during surgery when the anesthesia should hold. Some brains just refuse to sync." Jamie scoffed. "So, we're allergic to time now." "Great." "No." Hitch pushed off the board, stepping closer. Dust motes swirled around him like tiny planets defying gravity. "You're conductors. Most people are insulators. Time flows around them without interaction. But you." He snapped his fingers, an impossibly loud sound, and the frozen pen on the floor twitched. "You disrupt the current." Eli swallowed hard. The back of his neck prickled. "You're saying we caused this?" Hitch's grin softened into something almost pitying. "Caused it? No. Triggered it? Maybe." He reached into his jacket pocket, too slowly, like he was moving through syrup, and pulled out a pocket watch that wasn't ticking. The glass face showed no hands, just a spiral pattern that seemed to shift when Eli blinked. "Time's been fragile here for a while. You three just happened to be holding the hammer when it cracked." Jamie snorted. "Poetic. Got any actual explanations? Or just more cryptic bullshit?" Rhea edged closer to the chalkboard, her fingers hovering over the smeared equations. "These symbols, they're not just physics notation." She traced a looping character that resembled an inverted infinity sign. "This looks like the markings from the Roswell debris," Hitch finished, watching her with sudden interest. "You've seen them before." Rhea's fingers jerked back from the chalkboard like she'd touched a live wire. "No, I mean, not in person." Her throat worked around the lie. Eli saw it in the way her shoulders tensed, how her boots scuffed the floorboards in a nervous half-step back. Hitch's grin returned, slow and knowing. He tapped the spiral-faced pocket watch against his palm. The sound echoed oddly, like a coin dropped down a deep well. "Funny thing about time glitches," he said, stepping closer to Rhea. "They leave stains, little echoes. His gloved hand hovered near her temple without touching. You ever get déjà vu so strong it makes your teeth ache? Jamie shoved between them, knocking Hitch's arm aside. Back off, clockwork creep. His elbow passed through Hitch's sleeve like pushing through smoke, then solidified with a wet pop as Hitch casually reformed his arm. Christ! Jamie stumbled back, clutching his suddenly damp sleeve. Hitch examined his reforming sleeve with the detached interest of someone watching paint dry. Relax. Side effect of existing outside the stream. The fabric knit itself back together with a sound like rustling newspaper. Annoying, but useful when telemarketers call. Eli's breath hitched. The air smelled wrong, not stale, but empty, like someone had sucked all the molecules out and replaced them with cardboard cutouts. So what now? You drag us here to what? Gloat about breaking physics? Break! Hitch scoffed, spinning the pocket watch on its chain. The spiral face blurred into a hypnotic whirlpool. Kid, physics has been held together with duct tape and prayer since 45. He snapped the watch shut with a crack that made Rhea flinch. You're here because you're the only ones who can fix it. Jamie wiped his damp sleeve on frozen Professor Nguyen's lab coat. The fabric stayed pristine. Bullshit. If we broke time, how come you're not frozen? Hitch's grin slipped for half a heartbeat, just long enough for Eli to notice the way his pupils constricted, like camera apertures adjusting to sudden light. Because I'm not in time. He tapped his chest where a heart should beat. I'm what happens when you spill coffee on the universe's keyboard. Hitch's words hung in the air like the frozen chalk dust, weightless yet suffocating. Rhea was the first to move, her boots scuffing the floor with a sound that shouldn't exist. Fix it, she laughed, sharp and brittle. I failed high school algebra. Jamie nudged a suspended pencil with his toe. It rolled normally until it hit an invisible boundary, then stopped mid-spin as if hitting glass. So we just unplug time and plug it back in. Hitch's pocket watch spun lazily from its chain, a spiral face warping the light around it. More like finding the loose thread and pulling. His gaze slid to Rhea with unsettling focus. You've seen the patterns before. In dreams, maybe? Waking visions? Eli's stomach dropped as Rhea's fingers twitched toward her jacket pocket. A faint glow seeped through the fabric, a shape too angular to be a phone. Jamie inhaled sharply. Okay, what the actual Rhea yanked out a palm-sized slab of metallic alloy, its surface etched with looping symbols that matched the chalkboard's frantic scrawl. The edges shimmered like heat distortion. I found it, she whispered. 2 years ago, in the desert. It was singing. The alloy pulsed once, a soundless vibration that made their teeth ache. Professor Nguyen's frozen pointer finger twitched. Chalk dust cascaded from the board in slow motion. Hitch exhaled through his nose. There it is. He reached for the slab. Rhea jerked back. No! Her thumb brushed a symbol shaped like a fractured hourglass. The alloy emitted a high-pitched whine that shouldn't have been audible in frozen time. You knew about this. Hitch's glove creaked as he flexed his fingers. Knew? I've been waiting. His pupils dilated unnaturally. That's a shard of the original Roswell device. Only thing that can jumpstart stalled time. The alloy pulsed again. A deep, subsonic thrum that made the frozen chalkboard vibrate like a struck gong. Dust motes swirled into sudden frantic motion around Rhea's hands, circling the shard like electrons around a nucleus. Eli's vision blurred at the edges, the lecture hall's walls breathing in and out like a living thing. Jamie grabbed his arm, fingers digging in. Okay, we are not equipped for this. His voice sounded muffled, as if heard through layers of cotton. That thing is alive. Hitch finished, his pupils dilating until his irises vanished. He took a step forward, but his boot landed a foot to the left of where it should have, like a glitch in reality itself. Not biologically, not even dimensionally, but it wants. The shard's glow intensified, casting jagged shadows across Rhea's face. Sweat beaded along her hairline as the symbols under her thumb began to rotate, realigning into new configurations. The frozen students around them twitched in unison, 100 necks cracking at once. Eli's stomach lurched. "Put it down," he said, too loud in the unnatural silence. The shard pulsed a third time, deeper, heavier, and the lecture hall's frozen air rippled like disturbed water. Rhea's fingers convulsed around the alloy as the rotating symbols locked into place with an audible click. A shockwave of visible distortion radiated outward, warping the suspended chalk dust into spirals. Professor Nguyen's pointer finger jerked another inch forward. Hitch lunged, his outstretched glove passing through Rhea's wrist like smoke before solidifying with a wet snap around the shard. "It's initiating sequence," he hissed, his voice fraying at the edges into static. "Let go, or..." The shard screamed. Not sound, sensation. Eli's bones vibrated as the alloy's glow intensified to blinding, its light etching afterimages of branching fractals across his vision. The frozen students' twitching became full-body spasms, desks screeching against the floor as their limbs flailed in abrupt, juddering motion. Jamie tackled Eli sideways as Nguyen's pointer finger sliced through the air where his throat had been, her face frozen in a rictus of primal terror. Rhea's mouth opened in a soundless cry as the shard's symbols detonated outward, swirling around her wrist in a glowing helix. Hitch's grip held for half a second before his forearm unraveled, fingers dissolving into smoke that streamed into the helix like iron filings to a magnet. His widening eyes locked onto Eli's. "It's rerouting," he breathed. Then his face distended, stretching like taffy as his body imploded into the vortex with a sound like shattering stained glass. Eli remembered dying. The memory hit like a freight train, burning metal, the taste of blood hot and coppery on his tongue. Jamie's scream cutting off mid-word as the Mustang wrapped itself around a telephone pole at 80 miles per hour. The scent of gasoline and popcorn. His own fingers twitching against the dashboard, wet with something that wasn't butter. Then, a classroom. Professor Nguyen pointing to a different equation. Jamie alive beside him, doodling dicks in the margin of his notebook. The popcorn bag unopened on the desk. The memories overlapped, spliced together like broken film. Eli gasped, clawing at his chest, where the seatbelt had carved a furrow through his ribs a second that hadn't happened.